the last year when we started talking about the sights of London. This lesson is about the sights. What are the sights? The sights are the famous objects in different places, and the tourists usually like to visit them. The sights are the objects that some places are famous for. For example, our town, Despotovets, is famous for monastery, Manasia, Reseva cave, and some other sites. Those are the sites. What are the objects that are usually the sites? Look, you have 10 pictures here. Now you will hear the names of the objects. So put the number of the name of the object in the circle which is inside the picture.
4D. See the sights. 1. Vocabulary. Listen and number 1 to 11. 1. Castle. 2. Zoo. 3. Tower. 4. Theatre. 5. Square. 6. Market. 7. Art gallery. 8. Museum. 9. Palace. 10. Stadium. 11. Bridge.
You all know these objects, so it wasn't difficult for you to match them with the pictures. As you can see, you have the name of the object and the number you heard the object while you were listening. Now, let's go on. We talked about different sites of London, and I talked about many more sites than you have here in the book. But let's hear something about the sites which you have on these 2 pages, and then we can remind ourselves of what we were talking about last time.
2. Read. A. Listen and read. What is the text about?
See all the sights of London with non-stop bus tours. Do you like art? Well, visit the National Gallery in Trafalgar Square. Next stop, Buckingham Palace. This is the home of the Queen of England and her family. You can visit the palace and also walk around Green Park. It's next to the palace.
I hope that you remember that we already talked about the National Gallery and we mentioned Trafalgar Square, which is surrounded by the cultural objects, museums and galleries, etc. We also mentioned Buckingham Palace, and I told you some other things except those that you have here, so I hope that you remember them. If you don't, watch the presentation.
For an amazing view of London, take a ride on the London Eye. At 135 metres, even Big Ben looks small. Next stop, the Tower of London. It's got a very long and interesting history. Today, it's a museum, and you can visit some of the towers. There is also a great view of Tower Bridge. Covent Garden Market is a very popular place in London, with lots of visitors every year. There are different shops and restaurants there, so you can go shopping or have lunch. Our last stop is the West End. There are lots of theatres and cinemas there. London is a great place to have fun.
We also talked about these places that you can see here. Do you remember how long the ride from the bottom to the top and back to the bottom on the London Eye lasts. How many people can enter one capsule that is in the London Eye? Do you remember that? We also mentioned the Tower of London, and I hope that you remember the name of those people who work inside the Tower of London. Do you remember? We also mentioned the Covent Garden Market, and we mentioned the West End, which is full of theaters and cinemas, and I mentioned one very famous theater which was built after the theater which existed at the time when Shakespeare lived. Try to find the presentation on YouTube and remind yourselves of this. Now, let me see if you remember these things that you have just heard about. Here are the sentences that you need to complete using the words from the text that you have already heard. Take your time, complete the sentences, and then start the video again so that you can check the answers. Have you finished? Let's see the answers. Is it the same as you did it? I hope it is. Okay, now let's deal a little with grammar. In this lesson, we talk about can, could, and may. Those are modal verbs, and they can be used in different situations. Today, we learn those modal verbs for offering help, asking for permission, making polite requests, and asking for a favor. If you want to offer help, then you usually say, could I help you, or can I help you? If you ask for a permission to do something, you usually use may. May I open the window? If you make polite requests, or maybe you ask somebody to do a favor for you, then you use can or could, while could is more polite than can. The modal verbs are always followed only with the base form of the verb, not using to in front of it. You never say, can I too open the window? No, of course not. You say, can I open the window? You don't use to. And it is the same for all persons in the singular and plural. You say, I can open the window, you can, they can, etc. When you form the negative form and interrogative form in questions, you don't need to. For the affirmative, you say, I can, or I could, or I may. But for the negative, you say, I can't, I couldn't, I may not. You don't need do. Now, let me explain this in Serbian so I'm sure that everybody understands. Glagoli can, njegov drugi oblik could i may su modalni glagoli koji se koriste isključivo bez predloga tu, znači iza njih dolazi samo infinitiv bez predloga tu. Isti su za sva lica i kada grade odrični i upitni oblik, njima nije potreban glagol do, već sami sa sobom grade odrični i upitni oblik. Kada ih koristimo? Kada nudimo pomoć, najčešće koristimo can ili could ili may, a may najčešće koristimo i kada tražimo dozvolu da nešto uradimo. Evo, pogledajte. Can, could, may I help you? Can, could, may I go to the party? Ali najčešće ćete za dozvolu koristiti may, mada i ovo nije pogrešno. Kada tražite da vam neko nešto učini, kada tražite neku uslugu ili zahtevate nešto ljubazno, onda koristite can i could, ali je could mnogo ljubaznije od can. Slušajte, ako ja kažem can you help me with my homework? I could you help me with my homework, please? Šta je ljubaznije? Naravno, ovo drugo se could i najčešće koristimo i please uz to. Hajde da vidimo, da to malo provežbamo. Imate rečenice i pitanje koje trebate da spojite. I can't carry all these bags. Can you help me, please? Naravno, ovdje ste tražili uslugu od nekog. Zamolili ste nekog da vam pomogne. Dad, Mark is having a birthday party tonight. Can I go? Ovdje ste tražili dozvolu. Jack needs to go to the airport and he is late. Could you drive him there? Tražili ste neku uslugu i naravno upotrebili could da bi to bilo ljubaznije. Još jednom se vraćamo na reči koje označavaju neke znamenitosti. Upotrebite ih u ovim rečenicama, pa da vidimo da li ste to uradili dobro. I hope it is the same in your books. Now, whenever you have th in the word, you pronounce that th as the or the. You are going to hear these words and you have just to tick here if it is pronounced like the. But if you pronounce it like the, then you tick there.
4. Pronunciation. Listen and tick the sound you hear. Theatre. There. Teeth. Father. Those. Thursday. Thanks. These. 3. Brother.
Let's see if you did it well. I hope you did. It was very easy to understand whether they pronounce it like the or the. Let's see what we did today. We talked about different sights that you can see in different places. We went on a tour around London and I introduced a couple of sights that you can see in London. After that, we talked about can, could, and may for offering help, asking for permission, polite requests, and asking for a favor. We also tried to make the difference between the and the. Now, we are going to go back to our lesson, which is about the sights in different places. You have different sights here. How are you going to practice? You're going to ask each other. If you have a partner, you can ask your partner, or if you don't have a partner, you can ask yourself where the certain site is. For example, where is the Louvre Museum? And I'm sure that you all know that it is in Paris, France. So, how does the conversation look like? Let's see. Oh no, it's impossible. For example, where is the Leaning Tower? I think it's in Paris, France. What do you think? I think it's in Pisa, Italy. What do you think? Is it difficult to make the conversation like this? No, of course not. Try to make the conversation asking yourself or your partner where these places are, and then you can check by looking at the answers. Are you ready to start practicing? Okay. When you finish, I will show you the answers. Now, if you didn't know, the Louvre Museum is in Paris, France, and the rest of these sites are in the places that you can see here. How did the conversation look like? Now, listen to the conversation between different people.
5. Speak and listen. World Sights Quiz. 1.
Where's the Leaning Tower?
It's in Pisa, in Italy.
Oh, yes, that's right.
2. Hey Ben, where's the Maracanã Stadium?
It's in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro.
Thanks. 3.
Mum, is Tiananmen Square in Japan?
No, dear. It's in Beijing, in China.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's in China.
4.
Is Topkapi Palace in Turkey?
Yes, it's in Istanbul. 5. Hey Sue, where's Central Park? It's in New York, in the USA, silly. 6.
Dad, is the Louvre Museum in Australia? Of course not. It's in France. In Paris? Yes.
7.
Where's the Harbour Bridge? In Melbourne, in Australia?
It's in Australia, but it's in Sydney.
Thanks.
This is what they were talking about. You could hear different people asking each other the questions about those sites and giving the answers. Nadam se da vam je ovo bilo interesantno, zato što ne samo što ste proverili svoje znanje, da vidite gde se određene znamenitosti nalaze, već ste i naučili neke nove znamenitosti i saznali gde se one nalaze. To je i ono što vam ovaj udžbenik nudi, da naučite i nešto novo što niste znali, a što nije vezano samo za engleski jezik, već inače za stvari koje radite i iz drugih predmeta. Pa da vidimo šta smo to danas uradili. Malo čas sam vas podsjetila, a vi ćete se to provežbati kroz vaš domaći zadatak u radnoj svesci. Na 50. strani prvo ćete malo vežbati znamenitosti, zatim ćete u drugom vežbanju proveriti koliko ste naučili glagol can, could i may i na kraju razumevanje teksta. Kada pročitate tekst, napišite da li su rečenice tačne ili ne. That's all for today. Goodbye.